Looking to get into cyber, but not sure where to start? You're looking at all these different certifications and not sure which one is the right one? Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about 2 certification paths that you can take to get into cyber. So if you're wanting to get into cyber and you're trying to figure out which certifications for you want to keep listening.
Do you want a career in cybersecurity? Are you unsure how to start? Curious what it means to be a cybersecurity professional? This is the Cyber Job Hacks Podcast with Dr. Jeff Colburn. He's a 30-year industry professional and the founder of Team Caveo, a company that specializes in helping people launch cyber careers. Join us on this podcast as we explore what it means to be a cybersecurity professional and how to get started. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to Cyber Job Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Colburn. Before we get into today's episode, I want to invite you to join our private Facebook group. Here you'll be part of an online community of like-minded people where you receive the latest industry news, cyber career trends, free resources, invitation to member-only events, and exclusive offers. So join us at cyberjobhacks.com. In this episode, I want to talk about entry-level security certifications. As I mentioned in the last episode, certifications is the pathway into the cyber industry. If you don't have a college degree or if you don't have any experience, then certification is what's going to get you in the door. Because what happens is employers view that certification as a validation of your knowledge and your skill set. For example, when I interview job candidates, one of the things I base my questions on is their certification. So if I'm interviewing somebody and they have a CCNA, Cisco's Certified Network Associate, I expect them to be able to answer CCNA level questions. I actually place more credibility on a certification than the experience they list on their resume, because oftentimes people embellish their resumes, so they kind of inflate their responsibilities or what they've done. They try to shape their resume to the job posting. So sometimes your resume is not an accurate reflection of their real experience. So I look for the certifications, and then when I see that certification, I expect the candidate to be able to answer those questions at that level. Nothing above that level. If they can, great. But my expectation will be that, hey, if you have the CCNA, for example, I expect you to be able to answer CCNA level questions. So, but what really happens, or what people get trouble with when they get when they're starting in the industry, because they see so many certifications, they see so many training opportunities, they don't know where to begin. They don't know, well, what certification should I pursue, or which one's gonna which is the best one that's going to get me in the door. Which ones can I actually do, right? Because, some are entry-level certifications. Some certifications require experience or advanced knowledge or skill set. So when it comes down to entry-level certifications for trying to get into the cyber industry, I think you really have 2 choices. There's the CompTIA path, and then there's the Cisco path. There's benefits to both paths, but each path is different. And it's kind of, which one is the best is really going to be based upon the role you plan to pursue. So what I want to do in this episode is kind of look at both paths, look at the CompTIA path and look at the Cisco path, and kind of talk about each one and talk about which might be the best entry-level security certification for you to get in the industry based upon, what you're looking to do in the industry. If you remember last episode, we kind of talked about, there's so much that you can do within cybersecurity, everything from penetration testing to network security. So what you're going to do, or what you're interested in doing, is really that's going to drive the type of certifications you pursue. So let's talk about the CompTIA path, because with the CompTIA, what a lot of people will do when they start out is that they do what I call the CompTIA trifecta, right? So there's three entry-level certifications that CompTIA offers. There's the A+, the Network Plus, and the Security Plus. And people will pursue all three. But I'm going to tell you that I don't think that's a good idea. Not to say the CompTIA path's not a good idea, but yeah, let's kind of talk about these three certifications. So like the A+ certification, that covers computer hardware and operating systems. So it goes everything down from the CPU to different types of printers. And then you get into the second half of it. The second exam is all about operating systems. Now, the A+ is great. If you're going to go into help desk, then absolutely, A+ is the way to go. But if you're going to be a network technician or a security analyst, I don't really think you need to know how to create a user and three different versions of an operating system. There's so much other things you have to learn. So, if you need to learn about basic computer hardware, there's ways to do it without spending all that time and effort trying to pass the two A+ exams. And then you have the Network Plus exam. So when I look at the Network Plus, it's very theoretical, meaning that it kind of gives you some very basic concepts of how network works, but I don't really believe it provides the practical knowledge that somebody needs if they're going to work on network equipment. I think so when I had students take my course that had previously gone through Network Plus, a lot of the things I taught they had not seen before. So that tells me that they get a lot of theory, but not a lot of practical on the Network Plus. So I think Network Plus is great if you're going to be somebody who's going to be more security focused and you're not going to be touching network equipment, then absolutely Network Plus, just to get that very basic foundational knowledge on networking. But the big one in CompTIA is the Security Plus. This is probably the most recognized entry-level security credential. You'll probably see many positions list this as a job requirement that they're looking for Security Plus, especially in the U.S. government. You'll see something called DoD 8570, and these approved certifications that are required to perform security-related roles in the government. So if somebody's going into security, so my students, I don't have them go for Security Plus right away, but it's definitely something I recommend would be like their next step, especially if they're going to go for a more security-focused role. Now, if they're going for like, hey, I want to go network technician, network engineer path, then that's really up to them if they want to do Security Plus. But if you're going to go like, hey, you know what, I want to go into cyber ops or, I want to go into network security, then absolutely you're going to want to get the Security Plus, especially if you're looking at like a role in the U.S. government. Security Plus, like certifications and security clearances, those are like key to do anything in the federal government. So yeah, of the three CompTIA certifications, Security Plus, absolutely. I recommend that to anybody that's going into security as an entry-level certification. So one of the benefits, or people tell you, one of the benefits of CompTIA is that it's vendor agnostic, meaning it doesn't focus on any particular vendor. So to me, it gives you a lot of theoretical knowledge, but it doesn't seem to have that practical hands-on knowledge that you're looking for in an entry-level candidate. Um, so so that's the CompTIA path. So now let's talk a little bit about the Cisco path. And so this is definitely not vendor agnostic, right? You're going to learn Cisco. You're going to learn how to configure Cisco equipment. And honestly, this is the reason why I prefer the Cisco path for entry level professionals. Because, like I was saying, employers are not looking for somebody filled with this theoretical knowledge. Not that that's bad, right? It's important to understand how technology works, but when you're entry level, an employer is looking for somebody who can like jump on a box and configure it. They're not looking for somebody who can give them all the theoretical background, right? They want somebody who's going to be able to start working day one, because nobody's going to allow you to design anything day one. You're too new, you're too inexperienced, so you're probably going to be in operations in some capacity, either working in a network operations center or security operations center. So they want somebody who's going to know how to log into equipment, do a bunch of show commands, basically know the way to move around equipment. That's what employers are going to be looking for. And that's what I think when you look at the Cisco path, that has, that's what that has to offer. But again, only I would recommend this path is for somebody who's going to be more geared towards network security. Because Cisco's a networking vendor. That's what they build. So if you go to Cisco path, that means you're probably thinking, I want to be working in network security in some capacity. And that's the other reason you have the Cisco path is Cisco's a market leader. So there's a strong probability that you're going to encounter Cisco equipment out there. So, there's not going to be any shortage of jobs, with Cisco equipment. But with Cisco, it's not like you're just learning how to configure the equipment. And this is what I really like about Cisco as well, is I've been Cisco certified since 1999. That's when I received my CCNA. I've been a CCIE since 2003. All right. So I'm over 20 years of CCIE. Everything I learned about networking, I learned from Cisco, right? They're Cisco press books. They've always done a great job of teaching the technology and then how to apply that technology on their equipment. Like, I went through other vendor training, and oftentimes it's so focused on how to configure the equipment. They assume you already understand the technology. So, with Cisco, they've always been good about teaching the technology. And of course, you're going to learn how to apply it on their equipment, but at least you're learning about the technology and not just learning the commands to apply. You're actually understanding what it's doing. And, some of the great books the classics in networking were Cisco press books. Like if you look at Jeff Doyle's, routing TCP, that was a Cisco press book. Or if you look at Russ White's optimal routing design, again, that was a Cisco press book, right? So they have this great balance of theoretical, right, and practical. So the Cisco path, it used to be the CCNA was the entry level certification. But they changed. Last year, Cisco released 2 new entry-level certifications. It's one, but it's under has different disciplines, right? So it's a Cisco Certified Support Technician, or the CCST, and it's in cybersecurity and networking, right? So I think this is like ideal for somebody who's trying to go into security that's leaning towards network security, because it's going to give you that network foundation and that security foundation, and it's hand in hand, and it's not such a heavy lift as a CCNA or the Security Plus, right? So the CCST networking probably has about 30 to 40% of what's on the CCNA. So it's a great entry level certification, I think. It's still relatively new. So it's not as recognized as Security Plus. But here's the good thing. You're Cisco certified, and that alone, right? Cisco certifications carry some weight. They actually, when we define engineers, it's almost like you're rated by your Cisco certification. Even though if you're not even a Cisco person, they usually say, oh, I need a CCNA level engineer, or I need a CCNP level engineer, or I need a CCIE level engineer, right? So it's almost like this rating system of engineers is in line with Cisco certifications. That's a kind of impact or influence they have over the industry. So even though the CCST is relatively new, Cisco certification's not. So it's going to carry some weight for you. And I think, like I said, I think anybody leaning towards network security, this is probably a good way to get into the industry. Because it's not going to require as much time to get certified and to get into the industry. I think it's going to cut back some of the time required, versus if you went like CCNA or Security Plus, right? That's probably going to take more time for you to get certified, especially if you try to do both, which some people have done. Right, they do CCNA and Security Plus. I've seen that done too, and it's definitely going to take more time than just knocking out both of the CCST certifications. So I think moving forward, right, that's really going to prepare you either like, hey, I want to get into network engineering, or if I want to get into network security engineering, right? Because even if you go into network engineering, you have to be security conscious, right? You can't go and become today, you cannot become an effective network engineer without understanding some security, because we're integrating security controls into our networks now. So you're going to be dealing with, security appliances within the network. So you got to have some level of knowledge. So this is perfect for that. And then if you're somebody that's like, no, I want to get into network security engineering, or if I want to get into like cyber ops. Right. Again, I believe this is going to give you that good foundation to build off of. And honestly, anybody starting out, you're going to start off in operations anyway. So I think these two certifications will set you up well. So what would I recommend? Well, I think I've been kind of sharing my recommendation as we're reviewing the two paths. So like I was saying with the CompTIA, definitely Security Plus. Anybody who's going to be in security, I'm going to recommend Security Plus. And then whether you do Network Plus or the CCST or CCNA, really to me it depends on what direction you're going to go in security. If you're just like, hey, I'm not going to really do anything network, I just need some basic understanding of how networks work, then yeah, Network Plus. But if you're leaning towards going into network security, then I'm going to recommend the Cisco path. Because I believe, to be an effective entry-level professional is you have to have that hands-on, that practical knowledge. Because that's the best way to reinforce these concepts. Like somebody can teach you all these concepts, but until you actually apply it, it doesn't stick. So like, when I teach a class, I have a 2-to-1 ratio. I have 2 hours of practical labs to every hour of my lectures. So I'll talk about something for an hour, and then my students spend 2 hours configuring it, applying it on the technology, seeing how it works, so they can actually see and configure what I was talking about for an hour. And I think that's powerful for any engineer, especially somebody who's first learning, is to actually see it in action, see it working, being able to configure it, troubleshoot it. That's what's going to really sink in, right? And that's what employers want. They're going to want somebody who can implement the technology. Like, so, they're not looking for somebody That's going to be able to explain encryption algorithms. No, they want somebody who can, configure encryption on a VPN, right? Because, they're like, hey, we need to set up a VPN between these 2 points. They don't need to know how the encryption algorithm works. That's great if you do. They're going to want you to be able to configure that. And that's where that practical knowledge is going to come in. Like, again, if you're going into network security, that's what I'm saying. The Cisco path is probably best. Now, the theoretical knowledge, like, that can't be neglected. I've always told people you got to understand the technologies. And I even, I always teach that. Like, you got to know the technologies. I teach the technology. So you got to know the theoretical, right? But you also need to know the practical. So you need that mix. And as you grow in your career, as you keep climbing and pursuing new certifications, that's just going to grow. Your understanding of technology is just going to grow. Because if you're going into industry, be prepared to be a continuous learner. There's no way around it. The industry is constantly evolving. I've been in it for 30 years. It's not the same as it was 30 years ago. It's always evolving. You're always learning. You're always studying. And you're learning new technologies, and you're learning how to apply those new technologies. Like I said before, if you're looking, to do anything in security, at some point you're going to knock out that Security Plus. So my students, once they have their CCSTs, my recommendation is knock out that Security Plus if they're going in the security path. If they're going the network path, then they don't. That's up to them. If they do Security Plus, if they're going to do federal government work, then yeah, because they're going to probably run into that requirement that, hey, you need your Security Plus. But definitely, if you're going into cyber, at some point you're going to want to know, or you're going to want to pass the Security Plus exam. Again, A plus, unless you're going to be a help desk person, I wouldn't waste your time. No offense to A plus certification to those people who have it, but it's great for help desk. But network security engineers, you don't need to know the PC to that level. That there's other ways to learn about computer hardware without going through the whole A plus process. So another question I get is, well, Jeff, there's Palo Alto and there's Fortinet. Why don't we learn those instead of just Cisco? Well, Palo Alto and Fortinet, they're great firewalls, absolutely. But they don't build switches, right? So if you're entry level and you want to start learning about networking and security, then you have to learn Cisco and then Palo, or Cisco or Fortinet. But what you're doing is now you have to learn two vendors, right? So here you are, if you're brand new to the industry, why put that burden on yourself, right? So if you could just learn Cisco, you can learn this routing and switching and, the networking, and then the security on Cisco, instead of trying to learn it on two different vendors, right? That can come later. You're like, what? I'm working in the industry. I'm going in the network security path. I want to learn Palo Alto's. Absolutely. Then that's one of the next certifications you put on your radar. Right, starting out, don't make it harder than it needs to be. Just stick with one vendor, to get your foot in the door. And like I said, there's plenty of Cisco equipment out there, so it's not like there's going to be a lack of jobs for somebody with a Cisco certification. So let's just sum it up, right? So just kind of wrap this up. You have a couple of options, right? So the CompTIA route or the Cisco route. So like I said, no interest in network security? Absolutely. CompTIA route all the way. Get that Security Plus. Feel like you're going to lean towards network security, or you believe that's where you're going to start? Definitely going to recommend the Cisco path. Let's look at those CCSTs and knock those out. And like I said, I think you'll find yourself able to get into the market quicker following those 2 certifications. So like I always tell people, you have to really kind of look at, what areas of cyber you enjoy and where you want to grow your career, right? Because even when you're in, I always tell people you're always studying for your next job. So, you kind of want to, I know getting into the industry is kind of hard to know where you want to grow it. And that's why it's good to have a good foundation in networking and security. If you know your interest is in that area, like I said, if you already know I'm going to go into pen testing, or if I'm going to go into forensics, or I'm going to go into compliance, that's a different animal. But so it's you kind of want to know where do I want to grow this, and if you're not sure, you just want to get in and figure it out once you're in. Then learn a little bit of networking, learn a little bit of security, and then once you're in, then you can kind of see what's that next certification that makes sense to grow your career. So the approach I gave you, like I was talking about the Cisco path, that's an approach I've seen that I've taught. I've seen it work numerous times with my students. But, I know some people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm sure there's other paths. I'm just sharing the one I know that works. And believe me, if there's a different path, or you say, hey, Jeff, I know this different way that I think it would work for entry-level people to get into cyber, I'd love to hear it. Like, share it with me, shoot me, shoot me a message, put it in the comments, get into our Facebook group and put it, post it there. Because I love the feedback. I'm always learning. I'm a constant learner myself. So if there's other ways, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Like I said, my way is not the only way, but this is the way I recommend. So, hey, I just hope this is helpful. I hope this helped you kind of better understand what certifications. Maybe this helped you kind of. Maybe you're on the fence one way or the other. Hopefully this helped you one decision or another. If you ever want to talk one-on-one with me, you can always set up a coaching session with me. Talk about your interest in cyber and maybe what direction you want to go and what certifications make sense for you. I'd love to talk to you about that. So you can always set that up with me. But hey, I just want to thank you for your time today. I hope this was helpful. And until next week. Are you curious if a cyber career is right for you? Do you want to get into cyber and don't know where to start? Are you working in IT and looking to grow? Well, schedule a one-on-one cyber career coaching session with me to discuss where you are currently and how you can best move forward. Go to coaching.cyberjobhacks.com or click the link in the show notes to schedule your session today.
Thank you for listening to the Cyber Job Hacks Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please share with a friend who may be interested in becoming a cyber professional. Also, please leave a review on Apple Podcast. Your feedback is greatly appreciated as it will shape our future episodes. Meet us here every Monday as we discuss the cyber job market and how to launch your career. Until next time, have a great week.